Hey everyone, my name is Mike Vaughn. I'm the author of The Ultimate Guide to Strange Cinema, and I'm also a writer at Geek Vibes Nation.
And I'm Dillon Gonzalez. I'm the editorial director for GeekVibesNation.com and also a co host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast.
And welcome to a new Video Addict new release roundup. If you're new here, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Just a quick explanation of what we're doing here, why you're here. We go back and forth talking about the latest home video releases. And it's kind of fun because it might give you an idea of like what's going on out like in home video, what might be something that would fly under the radar. And speaking of that, my first title is definitely one that I think is on the more obscure side, but I've really been a fan of this for a while. And that's Don't Deliver Us from Evil. And this
Looks
is
creepy.
from, what's that?
It looks creepy.
It is. It is also so for our longtime listeners, we occasionally will swap pretty racy, scandalous titles. So I think I have it for this week. I don't know if you can see some of these images, but they're very provocative. This doesn't have any reversible art. There is Mondo always does like a limited red cover edition that has a booklet, but that's sold out. But so this is the standard edition, and this is the back with the special features. So I actually have the DVD of this to compare it, which I'll do after my short review. But so yeah, the plot is very simple. It's two girls who want to do anything and everything to be wicked. Like anything they can do to cause trouble or like it kind of starts out as like harmless pranks and then it escalates into some like really disturbing stuff. So I don't want to give too much away, but yeah, so I think for the time this movie was very shocking. It depicts a lot of sex, a lot of blasphemy against the Catholic Church. Indeed, I think depending on your walk of life, this movie still might be very scandalous. And I think the finale, in my opinion, is very impactful and very unnerving. Like it's one of those endings that like shock endings that truly kind of delivers on the shock. And I don't think it really comes out of nowhere. I feel like it actually builds to it. Like it doesn't feel like shock for shock's sake. So yeah, this movie definitely is a rare example of two women just wanting to be evil because they love it. They're cruel and that's it. No explanation needed. It is that juxtaposition between the cruelty these girls perform, all in the backdrop of this beautiful French countryside. So it's pretty interesting. So if you really like 70s sleaze and Eurotrash, I think this movie is certainly going to be for you. I do admit that even though I love this movie, I think the pacing is a little bit wonky at times. Also, if this movie, if the setup or premise feels slightly familiar while you're watching it, this is based on a real life true crime case that Peter Jackson actually covered a little bit more accurately in his movie Heavenly Creatures, which
Oh,
also
okay.
depicts two young girls that are kind of in their own fantasy world. Admittedly, Heavenly Creatures is much better, but this, if you want the sleazy cousin of that, there you go. So, as I said, I'll make this really brief, but this does have this new edition does have a extra comment, like a commentary track that this standard or the DVD edition does not. So this is what the DVD edition has. Keep in mind, so this is billed as the uncut edition. This is the same length, the same cut of the movie. If any was wondering. So yeah, you get everything ported over here, and you get Kat Ellinger's commentary track. So great transfer. So it's a new is it 2K? Um, it doesn't say 2K, but it looks really nice. It's a new restoration. Looks great, sounds great. Again, I think if you have the DVD, it's worth upgrading to the Blu-ray. If you don't have it at all, pick it up. I think it's great.
Awesome. Yeah, that especially with the notices that it's related to heavenly creatures. Now I'm extra interested. You are already making it sound interesting, but now like that kind of pushed me over the edge. So I'm gonna have to try to check that out.
Yeah, and I do want to note really quick, there's one scene I was trying to do some research to see if this was real or not. They kill a canary.
Hmm.
It looks very real. I don't know. It could just be special effects. I'm hoping. But if that's a trigger for y'all, like that's I completely understand. Just throwing that out there. But yeah, it's a sleazy good time. I hate any time, even if it's like simulated, that they have to like kill an animal. I think that's kind of gross, but
Yeah, that's a good warning. So I appreciate that. This there's animals fictionally harmed in my next film, but not actually harmed, as far as I know. This I won't have to really explain this one in much depth because it's a classic, but it is the new Scream Factory 4K release of Carrie from
nice.
Brian De Palma, based on the Stephen King source material. So this is a 3 disc set. I'll show this off real quick. So you have the slipcover and then same artwork underneath. I have to be very careful with this. More so, I think on my next title, I was having problems with the disc staying in. But here's the 4K disc and the standard Blu-ray, and then a whole disc for special features. And there is no reversible cover art, so just this one standard cover art for here. But I believe there's also a steelbook version available for those who are interested in steelbooks. I just got the regular slipcover version, but I'm perfectly happy. I like this cover art that shows the before and after of Carrie's evolution. Just like a quick recap for those who aren't familiar, it's just about Sissy Spacek plays a young Carrie who she is a girl. She's kind of a late bloomer. She's coming into her own womanhood. She's kind of repressed. She's under a very like fanatical religious mother. But she doesn't. She's kind of oblivious to kind of like her own body and everything out in the world. And due to this, she's kind of like a social outcast amongst her peers. She gets made fun of, but she also has a burgeoning psychic power. So she's like with her hormones and everything else blooming, so is her psychic powers, and that leads to some mayhem. And I think everyone pretty much knows how this movie ends based on just like cultural awareness. But this is such a great fun time. Sissy Spacek gives like just a knockout performance that just really like breaks your heart because you do really care for Carrie and you feel bad that like she's having to face all this bullshit from her peers, but then also you are scared of her because she is really causing some mayhem throughout, like especially at the end, just total chaos. And Brian De Palma, I would say this is probably among my top Brian De Palma films I've seen. Noticeably, there is a big blind spot in several instances for me, but we have been talking about him a lot in recent months because he's been getting a lot of 4K releases, which is pretty cool. But this is one of my favorites. I think this is a really like tightly paced movie. There's not a lot of fat on it. It moves at a really good pace. It has really great practical special effects, really great performances, and just it's just a great classic horror movie. I think it's like one of the best from this era. And Scream Factory does a really good job with this 4K release. This comes from a new 4K scan of the original camera negative. It is in Dolby Vision. It comes with, I believe, 5.1 and 2.0 audio. No new Dolby Atmos, just the original audio. But yes, 5.1 and the mono 2.0. And sounds great, looks great. I think the Dolby Vision and like the new 4K release are really just brings out a lot of life and nuance within it, especially like the buckets of blood at the end, like looks really nice and like really pops off the screen. The fire, just is beautiful and gorgeous, and just everything throughout. There's not like a lot of like all the damage has been cleaned up. Deep black levels. It's just a really nice transfer that I really appreciated it. The last time I had seen this, I think was like on cable, so it's like had that compression cable quality. So this was just a huge leap for me. And in addition to that, there are a ton of special features. This ports over the previous commentary, and also has just a whole disc that I showed you of just like interviews and featurettes, or just pretty much everyone involved with this film seems to be talking about it. So it's worth a whole disc of special features and featurettes and photo galleries and just all kinds of stuff. It is packed to the gills with special features. So Scream Factory, like a lot of people have been wanting this for a quite a long time, and they made it worth the wait. So if you have not already picked this up, this came out like about a month ago. So I'm a little late, admittedly. But if you haven't gotten it yet, make sure to pick it up because this is a great release for fans of the movie, De Palma fans, any just horror fans. Great release. So highly recommended.
Nice. That kind of reminds me of, I had a really funny story. We were at a convention, my husband and I, and we met PJ Souls. I had met her a couple times before. She's super nice. If you ever get a chance to like meet her at a show or something, like do it. But anyways, so this time my husband was with me, and so we got a picture and all that good stuff. And she goes to my husband and is like, "Do you want a picture?" And like my husband doesn't really know who she is, but he's like, "Oh, sure," you know. And then like later on, I showed him like Carrie and stuff like that. So
wow, he was in for a surprise.
yeah. So my next story is also horror, but certainly not as well known, but kind of interesting. So it is the Asphyx, I think is how you say that. So this is from Kino Studio Classics. There's the back. Of course, we got a really nice looking slipcover. I don't think there's reversible art. No. Okay, so this is one of those movies that I really didn't like this when I first saw it a while back. But I was kind of curious, you know, your taste change in movies. I was a lot younger when I first I think maybe even rented this. And I have to say I'm kind of glad that I gave it another chance because I think it's actually a really interesting one. The premise is, in a nutshell, this scientist is like trying to, or he thinks that he can capture the living soul of a person and thereby gain like immortality, and what the kind of implications of that would be, like how you would actually kind of wield that power. So I think inherently that's a really interesting setup. I still think the movie does drag a little bit. I think it has a good premise. I think it just sometimes paints itself into a corner, unfortunately. But I do really overall enjoy it. Like I said, I think the sort of big picture questions that it asks is really interesting. And I don't want to give it away, but there is like this has an ending that is so disturbing without being gory or bloody, or like it's disturbing in like an existential kind of way, which I love. So this release is pretty special because this has the regular cut of the movie that is 86 minutes long, but it also has a 99-minute version of it that I think is actually pretty interesting. So I watched the extended version of this, and you definitely can tell when there's added scenes or like extended scenes, because the quality dips, and it does kind of give you a little title card warning about that. I actually didn't really mind because it actually kind of indicated what was being extended or cut or whatever. And it's kind of funny because I feel like the stuff that they trimmed was like kind of important, like plot points or like information for the audience. Like there's a beginning scene that kind of explains more about like the lead guy, and I guess his like wife, or was she his fiance at that point? But anyways, it kind of explains a little bit more of like some character development. But yeah, so but it gives you that option. If you want to just watch the regular edition, that's fine. And then of course this does have a really nice commentary track trailer, not loaded with features, but it is nice to have that regular cut and extended. And yeah, it's an interesting film. Like I said, not my favorite, but I definitely think I appreciate it now that I'm a little bit older, like the kind of the themes that it's tackling.
Oh, yeah, that one sounds pretty interesting. I'll have to check that out. And I like we always say, if you want a slipcover, buy it early because those suckers will run out. My next title is also a slipcovered release from this one from Scream Factory. And once again, I'm not going to go too far into this because especially you have a video with one of the stars of this movie on this here YouTube channel that people can look at, and that is the original Black Christmas from Scream Factory, the new 4K release. Yes, it is January, and I am talking about Black Christmas. I'm a little late, but better late than never, I say. But this hit my stand. So here's with the out the slip cover. It's the same. I don't believe there is reversible cover art. No. So this one's been causing me trouble because this front disc keeps falling out. This is where the 4K disc is supposed to be held, but I moved out the special features discs just in case if something gets scratched. I'd rather it be one of the other discs and not the 4K disc. But here's the 4K disc and the Blu-ray. So I don't know what's going on with this case, but every time this keeps trying to fall out. So I had to be very careful. I know we sometimes complain about these types of packagings. I prefer it over stacked discs, but when it does cause me this kind of headache, it is kind of irritating. But that being said, this is a great release for those who don't know about Black Christmas. It's like one of the earliest like kind of entries into like what we know as the slasher genre. It kind of establishes like that it's coming from inside the house type of genre. Spoiler, but like this is just a lot of fun. So it's sorority girls receiving creepy phone calls, and then just the expected happens of just people start dropping, and it's directed by Bob Clark, who also we talked about a recent 4K release of a very different type of Christmas movie, A Christmas Story. So I like that, just two Christmas classics. But yeah, this is just it has like some really dark, like great humor. It has like some nice thrills, kind of creepy. It got some really nice performances. It flows really well. And this is one that I actually didn't come to until kind of more recently. I watched this for the first time just like a few years ago. I was just like, I'm looking for Christmas stuff. I haven't seen this particular holiday horror movie. I'm gonna check it out, and I really liked it. And then just seeing this 4K, which I'll talk about in just a second, like it's a huge upgrade from that streaming version that I saw. But just as a movie, it's a really interesting, fun time. I think it's very kind of like deliberately paced. I think some people who are more used to a more frenetic pace might be like think it's a little bit slow, but I don't think it's overly slow. I think it's just a really well paced. It builds up this like the thrills really nice, and just some of the reveals are just very they stick with you. So I really appreciate this movie for what it accomplishes. And as I mentioned, like people really should check out your interview with one of the stars, which I'm sure you'll talk about in just a second. But for this 4K disc, this like Carrie comes from a 4K scan of the original camera negative. It comes in Dolby Vision. It looks very nice. I think especially like with this being said around Christmas time, you do get some of like that Christmas lighting that really pops off the screen. This does take place a lot in like different shadowy environments. So you have really nice deep black levels, which I really appreciate. A lot of the damage has been cleaned up. This is just a really nice release. And also, I had heard that there had been some problems with the audio on the previous release. I think there were some issues. This has newly restored audio. They make a point to say this has been newly restored, and they have a new special feature on this about the audio restoration. So you get newly restored audio with both the 5.1 and the original 2.0 stereo soundtrack, where they kind of like replace any kind of like missing lines of dialogue or sound effects or anything else like that that maybe had been previously missing in any previous version. They took pains to kind of restore that to its original glory, so there were no like effects that kind of would ruin the experience. So you have that. You have you have 3 commentary tracks, which is pretty substantial, and then you have just a whole disc of extras with like interviews, featurettes, trailers, all kinds of stuff, Q&As, all kinds of just packed with stuff. So I kind of just like this whole laundry list of things here. I know it's hard to see over video, but this is just stacked to the gills with with this release. There's tons of special the audio's great, video's great. This is just a really solid release, and yes, this is more so like timed for the holidays, but you can enjoy this anytime, or just go ahead and just be prepared for next year, whatever your taste may be. This is a classic. Bob Clark did a great job, and I will yield some time to you to discuss this classic a little bit.
Yeah, it's certainly definitely a classic. I like you said, I did get to talk to Lynn Griffin, who plays oh wow, I'm blanking on her name. She's the titular person on the cover. She's the one that gets bagged at the beginning, but Claire. Yeah, Claire.
I was trying to see if they had the name on the back description. It did not.
Yeah, Claire Harrison. That's why taking a little while to reboot. But anyways, yeah, she was lovely, such a warm and great person to talk to, very entertaining. I will be sure to include that in the description so y'all can check it out. Yeah, just a very cool person. Like I follow her on Facebook too. She is still active in acting, doing bit parts, doing theater. She's such a cool person. So yeah, and I'll also link to like her socials, because she does sell really cool Black Christmas stuff that's handmade from her, which is very awesome. Yeah, so yeah, I'll put all that stuff in the description. But yeah, it's a great movie. If you haven't seen it, like this is a blind buy for sure. Like no question, you just need to check this out.
Absolutely.
So my next title is a very different title. And I really love it. I was very, very excited when they announced that this was coming out from Warner Archive, and that is Goodbye, Mr. Chips. Now, have you seen this one?
I have not yet. I'm excited to, though. I love Greer Garson a lot.
It's so good. So, all right. I did not know this, but this was actually based on a novella of the same name, and this is about a teacher, and it's a very simple but complex story about a teacher and the impact he's had on his students, and the kind of ripple effects that has had on the world, the effects that he had on his colleagues, and just this really beautiful portrait of a teacher that was going through some like turbulent times teaching in this all boys school. So yeah, like I said, it is a very simple plot, but the novella is also very simple, but it is a very wonderfully warm film, and really it tugs at the heartstrings, and I dare you not to cry at the end. Like, not only the end, but there's just some parts like they deal with the war, and there's like some students that he had that like do become like entangled in the war. I won't spoil anything, but it is really it brings home a lot of like things that were sort of pressing at the time of this release. So yeah, it's great. At nearly 2 hours, the movie really does a great job of letting characters breathe and come to life, especially, of course, the titular Mr. Chips. I mean, again, by the end, I think you really feel like this person, and you're able to really connect with him on a very deep level. And I think that's important. And I think if it was a shorter runtime, I don't know if it would have that same kind of impact at the end. Robert Donat, am I saying that right? Um,
I've never heard
anyways,
it spoken aloud.
yeah. Well, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but he's great in this. He even with some of the not so great old age makeup, I think his performance still really elevates everything. Like you really do, again, you really feel like you are on a journey with this character. And you know, if you're not selling it well enough, you're not, I mean, you're not going to have that impact. So he's great. Again, you're a fan of Greer Garson. I am too. She's wonderful. There's some really good supporting actors. There's a remake, a musical remake of this that I recall liking quite well. Peter O'Toole in that one plays Mr. Chips, and I believe that was 1969. And that's great as well. And I really hope that they do re-release that one as well. Warner Archive Blu-rays always look great. This is no exception. Like pristine looking. I didn't see any artifacts, any scratches, especially a movie that's from the 30s. So I was really impressed. Audio sounds great. There wasn't any there's a trailer on it. So there's a feature, but
Yeah.
it would have been nice to have like a featurette or a commentary track, but as it is, this is great. It's a great movie. You can definitely see how this movie kind of paved the way for stuff like Dead Poet Society and Lean on Me. So this one might not be on your radar, but if you like classic films, you like films about educators, it's great.
Yeah, I'm a big sucker for like inspirational teacher dramas.
Oh,
I'm actually writing a
yeah,
review for a Sundance drama I just watched that fits in that genre. So I am I'm primed for that. So I'm very excited.
nice.
Uh, Going on to my next title, not Scream Factory, Shout Factory, and G Kids. Everyone who's like a regular list or watcher will know that I'm a big anime fan, and that continues here with Goodbye Don Glees. And so yeah, this is a recent feature film, and I will show this off real quick. So this comes with a Blu-ray and DVD here, and I don't think there's like, there's like interior artwork, but it's not reversible. So just kind of like a landscape, which is really nice. A nice touch besides just like having a white background, which I appreciate. So Don Glees is like what this group of young kids call themselves, like a kind of a group name, kind of like the Goonies or whatever. But so this is basically just like your classic coming of age tale about like a group of friends. Like they're kind of like a disparate group. Like one member of the group has just recently come back from Tokyo, and he kind of has kind of like a more of like a snooty attitude towards like the more rural farm-like community that he's coming to have to stay in. And then there is that kind of like rural, kind of more country bumpkin character. And then there's like a shy character, and just like their friend group dynamics are just really lovely and nice and very natural. And where like a lot of animes, admittedly, they go kind of more fantastical or like whimsical. This keeps things more grounded, but it works very well as like these kids, you really see them just this really takes time to let them kind of like breathe and like really establish their dynamics throughout, and it is more of like a character driven piece until it does kind of kick into like more of an adventure where they are kind of fooling around, and then like in the countryside, and then there's like this fire, like this forest fire that they are kind of accused of starting, which they did not start. And so they have to kind of like retrieve this drone that they were playing with to try to like find it and like clear their name, of just like to prove like, no, this wasn't us that did this. So it's kind of like this adventure, but there's like a lot of stuff around this. There's I don't want to reveal too much, but there's like some medical issues with some of the members, and there's like some personal issues, and just like how this all kind of coalesces it does it pretty well. There's some kind of rocky turns in like the third act, which kind of seem a little bit rushed and don't land like completely honestly. I would say like it uh kind of seems like it's going just a tad bit for emotional manipulation, but overall I think this movie works really well because it is based in more like character driven moments that I don't know, I think some of the best animes just really like bring out a lot of like deep emotions within inside you, and like this doesn't have to rely on like fantastical notions. It's just very just nice character driven stuff. And this looks really nice from G Kids and Shout Factory. It has like really nice bold colors, nice line work. There's not much in the way of like banding or any compression artifacts or anything. It sounds really nice. You get both the original Japanese and an English dub, which I always stick with the original track, but there is both. And then you also get about an 11-minute interview with the writer director, which kind of like goes into just some of the basic points of the movie and just kind of explains like what he was going for. So it's nice to have at least one featurette, which kind of gives you just that kind of extra background and makes you appreciate it a little bit more. So while this is not a perfect anime, there's probably a few better ones that came out last year. I think this is very strong. If you are like a fan of the medium, I think this is a very great coming of age tale. I recommend. So Goodbye Don Glees from G Kids and Shout Factory. It's a pretty solid watch if you're into it.
Nice. Yeah, I purposely paired that with my Goodbye Mr. Chips.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed that, but
Yeah,
that was fun. So
we're always working overtime to make connections.
well, that's just one of the things that we try to do here. So my next movie is also, I guess, maybe like a coming of age tale, definitely not whimsical. And that is Bones and Awe.
I knew it. I knew it when you said that.
Yeah. So now I'm assuming you've seen this one.
I actually have not. It's like one of my most anticipated that I have not seen. I am so in for this.
Yeah, so after seeing it, I kind of want to read the book because there's some interesting things in the movie that I don't quite get, and I think is maybe explained in the book, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So yeah, so this is a very dark and twisted spin on a teenaged road movie. The movie does a really interesting job of swaying from disturbing to oddly beautiful, to actually really endearing. And the director is great at kind of mastering these tones whilst also doing a nice job of giving us really compelling characters. Like there's what was his name? Sonny or what was his name? Let me look it up. We can cut this out.
The Mark Rylance character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found him like to be the most interesting character, to be honest. Like I thought the two leads were fine. I don't find them very compelling. Yeah, Sully, who, holy crap, is so creepy and interesting and weird, and I want a whole prequel movie starring him. Or I mean, if we can get de-aging right, maybe like a de-aged him or something. But anyways, my biggest gripe I think was the world building was fine, but I think there's elements of that I don't think are as well established as they could have been. And again, I think that's something that the book probably fills in a lot better. But honestly, it wasn't enough of a deterrent to kind of take me out of the movie. It's beautifully shot. There's some like landscape shots that are just breathtaking. Like I'm glad that this got a Blu-ray release. I hope this gets a 4K release sometime. But yeah, it's a great looking movie. I mean, a lot of people were saying like how disturbing this movie was, so I was like mentally preparing myself for like to go through the ringer. And like it was all right. I mean, I think it's disturbing for like a mainstream audience.
Yeah.
And I will say that like the murders and stuff are very like gruesome. Like they're not, I've seen gorier, but I think like what's more disturbing about it is like they humanize the victims in a way. So I think that makes it a little bit more disturbing. Like it's not like in a slasher movie where you don't really know or care about half the victims anyways, but yeah, like I don't think it's super disturbing though. Like Men Behind the Sun, that's a disturbing film. Like Serbian film, stuff like that. Yeah. So yeah, but it's a good movie. Like I said, I didn't really connect with the two lead characters, but I thought they did a great job. It is a fascinating movie. I would definitely probably watch it again, but yeah, I think watching the or yeah, reading the book would be really interesting. So this does have some featurettes, which is really nice. And it does give you a nice little behind the scenes look. And I always like when they don't just do a bare bones release. So
Mhm.
yeah, overall, pretty good release.
Yeah, like I said, I'm so excited for this. I'm a huge Taylor Russell fan ever
Mm.
since I saw her in Waves. So I just
Oh.
very excited to check her out and see how she did in this because I love her so much. And people close to me are probably tired of me just like raving about her. So yes, love her and very excited about it. My next title is from Lightyear Entertainment. It is an interesting one. This is Voodoo Macbeth, which I'm a little torn on. This is an interesting story, but at times this almost feels kind of like a made-for-TV movie.
Mm.
But like it is interesting and it's well done. There's like certain crafts look good, but there's just kind of like a I don't know, kind of like a B movie quality to it. But so basically what this is, it's based on the like a real life tale of Broadway actress Rose McClendon, who along with one of her producers, she decided to played by this woman right here, she decided to stage like the first all black depict or performance of Macbeth in Harlem. So it's like an all black theater troupe. And who did they get to direct this? A young Orson Welles. So that is, he is portrayed here. So it is just basically, it's an interesting tale of just like a, how basically like the art scene for like African Americans are kind of like dismissed, especially at this time when it was like the like late 1920s, early 1930s, I believe, where like because they are black, it's just kind of like no one really took them seriously that they could be like artists putting on like this level of caliber of show that would like want to like be seen by like a larger audience. And then like bringing in Orson Welles, who really didn't even want to take on the project at first, but just kind of like got convinced, and like how like working with Rose and how to like they brought together like they gave like confidence to certain people who maybe didn't like would have had their own confidence in themselves to do this show, and like bringing legitimacy like from the outside. And it's it's really like a rewarding tale of just like banding together to put on a show, and like just like to put on the best show possible and getting recognition for it. So I really like the story. It really resonated with me, especially as someone who's like interested in like Orson Welles and like the art of like putting on a show. I think it's very interesting. It's very moving. The performances were pretty solid. It just I don't know. There's just something about it that just like maybe it was like the cinematography or something that just kind of like had kind of like a kind of just cheaper feeling, but like the costumes and stuff were like really great and everything. It's just there's just like a feeling that I had that just like it wasn't like Oscar caliber, which that's awards are kind of like a weird barometer to match things, but just like it just didn't seem like the highest, like the best version of this that it could be, but it's still a very solid movie and really worth a watch if the subject matter sounds interesting to you. It just like you can kind of tell this is more like an indie, a glossy indie production. So overall, I thought it was pretty solid. This has a pretty like decent assortment of special features. It has a audio commentary, and then it has like a selection of footage actually from that, like the original 1930s of this theater troupe. It's not very long, but you just kind of get some like brief glimpses of them, which is really cool. So they did not skimp on this release. You do get some special features, and so yeah, and it has won some like regional festival awards and stuff. So it's a pretty it's worth a watch at least. Just yeah.
That guy does not look like Orson Welles though. Like, did you buy him as Orson Welles, or is it just
Honestly, no, I did not, but I kind of rolled with it. You just kind of just like I said, this is just suspending the disbelief. You're just kind of just like,
yeah?
they're telling me that they want this to be Orson Welles. Gotcha.
Did he
Okay,
at
I'll
least
just.
sound like him? Because he has a very distinct voice.
He tried.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does sound, all jokes aside, it does sound really interesting. I do really like movies about theater, so I have to give that a look at. So my next one is The Long Long Trailer, and of course Lucy and Desi Arnaz, great pairing. Here's the back. So I had actually seen this a bunch of times before this release. So again, I was really excited when they announced that this was getting a brand new Blu-ray release, and this is a really fun movie. So this was released during the height of the popularity of I Love Lucy. And it's directed by Vincent Minnelli, who of course is the father of Liza Minnelli. But Vincent Minnelli directed so many famous films, a lot of great musicals. So this is a really charming slapstick comedy. The premise is very simple. Newlyweds Nikki, not Ricky, Nikki, which is a little jarring, and Tracy buy a trailer. Like Trace, it's kind of Tracy's idea. It's a very standard, like Lucy kind of, has this big grand vision of living in this trailer and yada yada yada. Um, so anyways, the end result is hijinks as their love of the open road and freedom turns into a nightmare. So again, I really like this movie. I think if you enjoy I Love Lucy, you probably will connect with this movie. Again, the comedy is very slapstick. It is very broad, and as I mentioned, it definitely has that great Lucy Desi chemistry. I mean, of course, they were like really married, so you certainly do buy them as a couple. And yeah, I will say the gender politics are very much of the time. So you definitely get the, Lucy's like, I want to be domestic. And listen, you know, I don't ever tell anybody how to do them, but it just letting you know it is very of the time. But it's still great. I mean, there's nothing that is, I mean, between the two of us, we've definitely seen some stuff that are very cringy. I will say a little bit of like gender politics aside, this movie's very innocuous as far as like cringe goes. But yeah, there is some amazing physical comedy. I don't want to spoil it, but there's a moment when oh my gosh, I almost like, well, Lucy, but her character's Tracy, gets yeeted out of the trailer in such a way that like it gets me every single time I see it. So it's great. Yeah, and this being a Vincent Minnelli movie, we do get a few songs sung by Lucy and Ricky, which is kind of a fun little bonus. So yeah, this has a doesn't have a lot of features. This has a short film. Oh shit. And short film and a trailer and a classic cartoon. So it's a nice little combo that Warner Archive usually does. I think that I've seen the DVD before, and I can certainly tell you that the Blu-ray like blows it out of the water. It's beautiful looking. It's nearly pristine. Like I didn't really see anything as far as like scratches or artifacts or like oversaturation. It just looks really nice. Colors really pop. You know, you see Lucy in black and white so much. It's kind of great to see her in like vivid,
Mhm.
like I don't know if this was Technicolor, but you know, like it's yeah, it's great. So if you're a fan, have you seen this?
No, I'm really excited. I'm a big Lucy and Desi fan, so
Yeah. Well,
it's
I was
hot.
gonna say because you covered one of her movies with Bob Hope, right? Not too long
Yeah,
ago.
Fancy Pants, yes.
Mm.
Mhm.
Um, so yep, it's a good one.
Yes, that like my wife's a huge Lucy fan, so that's high on
Mm.
the list for us to watch as soon as we're winding down with our Sundance viewing. But yes, I love Warner Archive, and I love the efforts they always put into their Blu-ray releases. Speaking of great labels, this one is a new one that I'm excited to talk about. I will talk about the movie a little bit, but then I want to talk about the label a little bit. This is the first American release from Radiance Films, and this is Big Time Gambling Boss.
Mm.
And I will discuss this a little bit. So you have disc here and a booklet here, and let me kind of show this off. Dropped my notes. So here, you got a pretty nice thick booklet full of essays. If I can get it open. So like essays, all kinds of stuff here. So okay, so this does have reversible cover art, but so like you see this little red strip here, that actually comes out too. So you can pull it out, and it has kind of like the synopsis and like kind of everything on it as well.
Mm.
And so once you release that, you have the unintruded upon cover art here, and then the reversible cover art here. So you have it kind of like a different ways you can display it. You can have that little kind of extra information on it there, or just like take it off and just have it clear there. So like you don't have like the traditional just like synopsis and extras and everything. That's all on this. So it kind of makes for like a more cleaner look, which is interesting. But so I'll continue to talk about the movie, but then I'll kind of discuss why this is like notable. The Big Time Gambling Boss is basically, it presents itself as like a standard Yakuza tale, but it does have some kind of unique aspects to it. It does kind of take more of a kind of like considered approach to it. It's about at the beginning of the movie, the boss in charge is kind of like on his deathbed, and there's like a meeting at the beginning where they're trying to decide who is going to take over for him, because as he is like about to slip off this mortal coil, he's like, we need to choose a successor. And everyone decides that it is this one guy right here who does not feel like he wants to take on that responsibility. He feels that the next in line in succession is this person who happens to be in prison, and he thinks that he should be the next person in line, but no one really wants to go along with that plan because that dude's in prison, and it's going to be a little bit before he gets released. So they decide to not. Since this guy doesn't want it, they elect another person. But then once that guy does get out of prison, he also feels like he should be the leader, and that causes kind of tension and kind of like almost like a internal gangland warfare type politics, where there's just kind of like, this isn't like over the top and like extremely violent like a lot of Yakuza films. This is very kind of like considered like palpable tension, like dramatics, and just like kind of like intense like monologues and all kinds. That might sound boring, but like this is shot in a way that just really, it keeps things more grounded and humanistic, and which I really appreciate. It kind of it sets it apart from just people that are always, or like films that are always just like going for like the carnage and blood and all that stuff. So I like the way this develops. There's like some really nice character development. The acting is really great. The cinematography is really nice too. There's some really nice shot composition. It's paced really well. Even it's like a 95-minute movie, and it uses every moment very well to just like kind of like keep adding, building onto this world and establishing the stakes and like the kind of like the hierarchy of this kind of gang leadership, and it builds to a very satisfying conclusion. So this is one of the better kind of Yakuza tales that I've watched in the past year or so, which I've watched a lot. If you watch this channel, you know I've watched a lot of like old school Japanese movies from like Toei and all that stuff, and this is another one, and they do a really nice job. So as I mentioned, this is the first release from Radiance Films. This is notable because the person who founded this used to work for Arrow Video. He left to found his own company, but he brings that level of quality to Radiance, and so you can tell by like the packaging. This has a really nice transfer that has been provided by. It's been remastered by Toei, and like on this. This includes two visual essays, one that is 15 minutes and one that is 26 minutes. One kind of about kind of the Yakuza genre, like at large, and kind of everything. And then another, I believe it's kind of more specifically about this movie and just kind of like its legacy. So the extras are well curated. It has a nice booklet. It has nice packaging, and you can just really tell there's a lot of care put into this for collectors. So this being the first release that they put out in the U.S., which they're doing like Arrow, they're doing dual releases, but only certain ones are going to be available in the U.S. And I'm going to try to cover as many as I can from that are being released in the U.S. But this is just a great start to a new label that I'm very excited about. So I just, since they are just kind of getting started, I encourage anyone who's like a fan of Japanese films to support them, because this is going to be more than Japanese films. They're going to be kind of like all genres, but the first one happens to be Japanese. So support new exciting labels, and maybe we'll get even more cool stuff in the future. So Radiance Films, big time gambling boss, great new release.
Nice. But yeah, no, that sounds great. It sounds really interesting. I definitely like how sounds like it's a little bit more of like a philosophical take on like a crime kind of.
Absolutely.
So my next one is also a crime film. And it's pretty interesting. It's an Italian film from Rero and Kino, and that is The Scent of the Night. And the back. So yeah, again, this was one that never heard of before. But really interesting. So I would definitely say this is like a neo-noir made in Italy from the 90s, and it kind of has a nice mixture of like a Guy Ritchie movie. It kind of has like the tough guys, but it has that kind of dark, sardonic sense of humor that I really liked about Guy Ritchie movies. But I will say that it's an interesting movie because, kind of like what you were saying, it's not particularly like gory or bloody, but it definitely, I think, like the violence that it does have makes it a little bit more disturbing, because just like it's more of like people being brutalized, and it's very shocking, but it's not like so over the top that it desensitizes you, if that makes sense. And yeah, so I think that's like the way they use violence in it is very effective. But it also kind of plays as like an interesting sort of throwback to early crime films. There is a very cool jazzy soundtrack, which I like, that kind of piggybacks off of my next point, which is this movie's very cool. Like, it definitely has this air of like cool about it, even though like you're seeing these guys do these horrific things. You're not really rooting for them, but you kind of like are in a way. It almost like I saw somebody compare this to A Clockwork Orange in a way. And I guess I can kind of see that. Certainly not in like plot or theme, but like that way of like you sort of in a way like the main like criminal.
Mhm.
And they do these shocking, awful things, but you're so absorbed into their world and from their perspective, so you have no choice but to sort of like see the world through their eyes. And I think that's a pretty fascinating but also very uncomfortable place to be in. So I applaud the movie for really going like that route. I will say that the movie's pacing is a little like plotting, and I think there definitely are elements that I didn't find that engaging. Again, I think this movie could have used a nice trim for pacing's sake. But yeah, I still found the characters interesting enough that I was hooked. I also want to say that this movie is like stylish as heck. Like it just looks great. It's again, it adds to this really like cool noirish like little crime film. So
Mhm.
at only like a little over an hour and a half, again, it's a little sluggish, but for the most part it's fun. It's a really interesting ride. There's some like confessional style like narration that I thought was also kind of fascinating, like a little bit fourth wall breakish, which I thought again for the time. So this was like I think like late 90s, yeah, 98. Um, you know, that was something that really wasn't done a whole lot. I mean, there's movies have been meta ever since movies, period.
Mhm.
But we didn't really see it like to that extent. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So yeah, if this is not on your radar and you think you kind of like dig like a Euro trashy 90s neo noir,
Mhm.
check it out.
I do, so I'm going to have to check that out. So thanks for the recommendation. Uh, my next title, it is from, I'm probably going to butcher this, Manimsha Films, and Kino Lorber. I don't know, Manimsha, if that's how you pronounce it, films. They usually cater in more like Jewish fare. So just to put that out there, if you're interested in more Jewish fare, you should probably try to track down more their work. But from them and Kino Lorber, it is Plan A, which it was a 2022 film, which I never really heard about until this came on to Blu-ray, but I'm glad I did. I found this to be a very interesting, like inspired by real life story. So basically, what this is, it's about a tale of uh, Jewish people who kind of have survived the the Holocaust basically, and have like went through all this terrible, like they went through the Holocaust. They've lost people. They very nearly died themselves. And after kind of surviving and getting out of the concentration camps, a group of them who are especially pissed off, they kind of take like an eye for an eye mentality, and they kind of start like hunting down Germans and trying to like uh, find anyone who was like culpable for the atrocities that happened. And Plan A, what that refers to is there's a plan that they want to enact where they will kind of, like I said, they want an eye for an eye. They will undertake kind of their own Holocaust where they will poison the water supply of Germans that would kill like hundreds of thousands of Germans if they succeeded. So it is about this plan for them to attempting to carry this out. And I guess you can kind of guess what happens considering you probably haven't heard about hundreds of thousands of Germans being killed by poison. But anyway, it's still an interesting tale of like a group fighting, like a group of Jewish people fighting back and like trying to take control after they've like lost so much from this atrocity. and it's paced really well. Like it, I'm not sure how much of this like is like 100% true to the letter of like what happened. There's probably just a small amount of historical fiction going on here, but I can understand why they would if they did. It's a very uh like engaging movie. It keeps you transfixed throughout. It's paced really well. The performances are pretty solid, and you just, but it does leave you kind of like morally questioning stuff of like what is retribution justified? What, who should carry it out? On what scale? All that type of stuff. Those kind of questions are kind of what you're left with, and it's like an interesting thought experiment of like, what if this had been successful? Would it have been justified? What, like, all this, it's very interesting, and it makes for a very interesting movie. And so if this kind of interests you, like if you're intrigued by historical films around like dealing with the World War II and its aftermath, I think this is a pretty solid watch overall. I'm a big fan of August Deal here, who he was in Terrence Malick's film A Hidden Life. He also had a bit part in Inglourious Bastards. So uh, overall, solid watch. It's not the best movie I've ever seen, but it's worth a watch if it even sounds a little bit interesting to you.
Nice. Yeah, no, that I definitely had not heard of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Germans being poisoned. So
Yeah.
a little bit
Sorry,
of a
spoiler
spoiler
alert.
alert, but yeah.
Sorry.
So you also reviewed a unconventional Christmas movie. So I'm ending with one as well. And that is Violent Night.
Nice.
And here's the back. Again, nice features. There's a feature on here that they don't promote, but I'm going to talk about later because it's awesome.
Okay.
But it's a little tease. So inside, so this does come with a digital code. It's not in mine, but if you order it, yours will be in there. So yeah, I heard a lot of really good things, and this kind of came out in a wave of Christmas horror movies. There was The Mean One, there was Christmas Bloody Christmas, and then there was Violent Night. I feel like there was another one, but maybe not. So I had seen the other two. I had not seen this until watching it at home, and I was really excited. I like David Harbour a lot. I think like the idea of him playing this deranged Santa Claus sounded pretty fun. I know like early screenings, people were really like comparing it more to Die Hard and less to like Silent Night, Deadly Night. And I think that is a really interesting angle to take. So this isn't like, I don't think this isn't a spoiler alert because I feel like the trailers kind of made this clear. This isn't a killer Santa Claus movie, although I guess technically it is. Because there is a Santa that kills people, but it's not like a random killing innocent people Santa movie. So of course we have a very grizzled Santa who's questioning whether or not he wants to even be doing this job, and he's kind of at this point in his life where the job's not fulfilling and he's really questioning a lot of things in life. He is very cynical about a lot of greed. And this kind of overlaps nicely into the main plot, which is a heist of this. I guess she's a senator or governor, or she's like some like big wig political person. And convoluted as it is, they kind of you know, like these like bad guys like get they sort of like weasel their way into the house that has all this security, but it's a movie. They take care of it with no problem. And they want to heist this like ridiculous amount of money. I think it was like 300 million. So they kind of, and they do explain where the money came from and everything. So I did really enjoy this. I thought it was a lot of fun. I think the movie is definitely at its best when it's just a phonetic, crazy action movie that feels like a bloody anime. So I think again, like the heist plot adds a nice layer, and there is a nice little mystery about like the money. I don't want to give too much away, but um the money isn't exactly like what you think it is or where you think it is. That being said, I think the narrative definitely could have used more polish. I think there's certain elements that doesn't really click or connect with. I mean, I know there's suspension of disbelief, but then there's things that are like really hard to I don't know, like
Mhm.
it's hard to say without giving major plot points away, so I'll just leave it at that. But this is nearly 2 hours long. I think this movie could have been trimmed maybe by 15 minutes, and it would have helped a lot. And it does this thing where I hate, where anytime the writer doesn't know how to explain something, he's literally like, I don't know, it's magic, I don't understand, it's Christmas magic, who cares?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's so lazy. But anyways, it's fun. Um, Again, stuff like that never really bothered me, just because it does like have a lot of fun action set pieces. There is a nice like I don't know if this is a spoiler, but if you ever wanted to like see Home Alone traps, the way they would actually work,
Yeah.
you get it here. So
Nice.
that's great. I love that. So like there's a nice little like Home Alone, like they do name check Home Alone, they do name check Die Hard. And yeah, it does wear its influences on its sleeve, but I think it tries to be different enough and interesting enough to stand on its own. So the feature that they don't promote, which I was so excited about when I was like going through the Blu-ray, was a commentary track.
Oh, cool.
And like we don't like, that's so exciting, because usually with like big releases like this, we never usually get like a commentary track. I feel like those are kind of starting to come back into vogue with some of these bigger directors, but yeah, we don't really see that too often anymore. So that's a big selling point. I think that's great. Again, it has some nice featurettes, it has some deleted scenes, because this movie was apparently even longer for some reason. But
Yeah.
and of course, probably everybody knows this, but they are doing a sequel. Um, so expect more violent nights ahead. So
Well, that's exciting. Yeah. I'm always for more Christmas content, even if it is bloody. So I'm excited. Uh, my final title is the polar opposite of this. I'm ending on a sweet note. This is the Disney release of Mickey and Minnie, classic 10 classic cartoon collection, volume 1, because we are celebrating 100 years of Disney this year. So Disney 100. So, yes, there's only 10 of these on here, but it makes for a nice kind of budget friendly release. And that's good for us classic animation fans who are all about it. So, this runs right about an hour and a half in length. So, it's not like you're being like cheated out of money, but it's a good solid release. So there are 10 of these. You get the original classic Steamboat Willie. You get one of Mickey doing like trying to get a cake from Minnie, like doing like yard work, and then tornadoes like cause havoc. There's like this one where they're ice skating and like mischief happens with like Goofy and Donald and all of them. It's just classic Disney like shorts, and I'm a big fan of classic animation. Warner Archive's been doing a good job with like Looney Tune or the Tex Avery cartoons and Popeye and like a bunch of like classic cartoons like that. So I'm glad that Disney is like reaching into their vault and trying to hopefully start making more substantial leaps and like getting some of their shorts out onto disc. Like I said, this is volume 1, so that promises more. And I would not be mad to see them go for like a multi-disc set of like 20 or 30 in one, but that might be a little too pricey for some consumers. But as long as I get more, I'm happy. These look really nice. I know they were already remastered previously, so they could be put on Disney Plus, but I like owning stuff. So these look really nice. My one complaint is I don't know why they did this, because I know Warner Archive, they do full DTS lossless audio for their releases. This is only Dolby Digital 2.0, so it has lossy audio, which it doesn't sound terrible, but just knowing that they could have went lossless, I'm just kind of lost as to why they wouldn't. It just kind of seems right there. Just give us lossless audio. We don't ask for too much. You don't have to give us Atmos or anything. These are classic cartoons. We don't need it coming up from above and everything. I just want like lossless audio. So that's my one complaint. There are no special features, but overall the quality's solid. There is also another minor nitpick with the presentation. The way this is presented is you cannot pick any specific cartoon and just watch it from how it was originally presented, like with the original opening credits on. The way this is structured is like Mickey and Minnie are telling you a story throughout. So it's like, and it's like a voiceover of Mickey and Minnie. You don't see like actual new animation necessarily, but like you'll see like little like animations of like maps or clips or whatever, and they're like, oh, Minnie, you remember whenever we did this? And it's like blah blah blah, and it's like then it leads into the cartoon. But that, it's kind of annoying that you can't just go directly to it. You have to have like this little build up to like introducing the cartoon, and I'm fine with that being an option, but I'd rather have it also an option where you can just go directly to each cartoon without that interstitial. So that's also a minor complaint, but I think they could have authored the disc a bit differently so they could have an option to watch this kind of like storytelling version and just like the shorts back to back. But minor complaints. Overall, it's a pretty good release. I'm glad Disney is like doing this. I'm looking forward to future volumes. It's a lot of fun. I love classic animation. So
nice.
If you're a fan, pick it up.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. Now a question: can you select them into like the individual shorts without doing like a full like run through?
Now, that's what I'm saying. Like even whenever you click the individual shorts, like
It'll
if you click
still
like
do the
the build up to that particular short, because between each short they are telling like, oh, you remember whenever you were doing like we went on vacation and stuff. So every single time, if you just like go to a particular short, you get that little bit at the beginning. So you either have to watch it or fast forward, which is just kind of annoying.
Okay, yeah. Thanks for clarifying. I wasn't sure if like that was just like when you do is it like a play all of like
you can just watch a play all of them, and you'll just get like short, interstitial, short, like throughout all 10. Or you just can do like select a short, but you still get that interstitial before. Yeah. So it's weird to me that you can't just play just the short.
Yeah, no, that is interesting. I mean, even that aside, I still definitely want to pick it up, and I really loved your Mickey.
I did my best.
No, listen, good. It was good. Listen, comment down below. Let us know if you want more impressions.
That's my first attempt. Okay, I'm happy with how it came out.
No, especially for a first crack at that. That's great. So I think that's a great place to end this episode. As always, definitely consider giving us a like, subscribe to the channel, because we post things daily. And comment down below. We're not doing a giveaway this week, unfortunately, but still we'd love to hear from you. Chime in, tell us what you like, tell us what impersonations you want us to do, all that good stuff. And as always, thanks for hanging out with us.